And thank you so much for being here on the podcast today.
Thank you, Lupe. Thank you for having me.
As you know, I like to start every interview by asking guests, as a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Actually, a very good question. And it's been a while since I thought of that question. So, when I was a kid growing up, I always thought about being a couple of things, but one would be a teacher. Everything that I thought of when I was growing up had to always deal with talking to people or just working with people. So, a teacher or a journalist, there's always that high level of
Mm.
conversation or just interacting with people. So, there
Mm.
was also a period in my life that I wanted to be an architect. That was a weird time in
Ah.
my life. But yeah, so mostly it was teaching.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, how do you think that connects to what you do today? And do you mind sharing what you do today?
Funny enough, I did have a teaching stint in my early years in my
Mm.
career. I was a preschool teacher for about a year and a half, and it was super fun but very challenging, let me
Mm.
tell you, to deal with kindergartners and just trying to talk to people that are really super not your age. That was challenging for me. Now, I actually have a team. We have a digital marketing agency here in the Philippines. So I have a team of creatives. And what we do is we help our clients to declutter their workflow. So that's actually what we call ourselves. We call ourselves Dklutr. And we provide a range of services from podcast management, which has now evolved to YouTube. We also provide social media. And then as our business progressed, clients like yourself, thank you so much for you. Clients really enjoyed working with us so much that they started to outsource a lot of their business our way. And that's how we also developed other branches of our business. So now we are really dealing with clients who are purely social media. And we
Mm.
even are starting to work with a client on his personal branding. We've now grown into helping clients digitize their expertise, digital courses, educational courses, which, hello again, the education side really played
Mm.
in. And yes, so we also now have clients who reach out to us for virtual support. We like to call it virtual professionals rather than just virtual assistants. So
Mm.
we've progressed to really helping them streamline their businesses or
Mm.
streamline their workflow.
Mm. And you mentioned the digital course piece. How else do you think what you do today connects to what you wanted to be as a kid?
When I was a kid, my mom, who worked at a government agency, she always brought me to the office. So
Mm.
I was really the kid who stands on top of tables and dances for her office mates. Yeah, so I guess that personality of just engaging with people
Mm.
really blossomed in me, or it developed me to be who I am. My mom really like showing me off to her friends, her bosses. She would say, "Hey, Anne, can you sing? Can you do a poem?" Growing up, she would always like me to join contests where you need to, we call it here in the Philippines, declamation contest, or it's like contest where we do performances where we recite an entire poem, and it's like, how do you enunciate yourself, or how do you present that poem in such a way that you really capture the essence of whatever. Even the Declaration of Independence of the United States, funny enough, that was something that one of the contestants used as a contest piece. So just reflecting on that, I think that really developed my personality, I guess, when it comes to that enjoyment. I would say that fulfillment of just dealing with people, engaging with people from all walks of life. So
Mm.
I've dealt with the young, very younglings. And even when growing up, I was around people who are twice my age. So I guess that also contributed to the well roundedness of who I am, that is now very material in our business because we deal with different kinds of people from different industries. Our clients are, we have lawyers, we have business coaches, we have therapists, we have
Mm.
doctors. It's a really wide range. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. I just want to share how me and Anne met. When I was thinking about starting this podcast, I joined a podcast course
Yes.
And it was like, I can't even remember how many weeks, but it was like 12 weeks of material. And there was a group, a cohort. And if we launched by September 1st, the two people who were hosting the
Mhm.
podcast course said they would share our podcast on their podcast. So they both have successful podcasts, Jacqueline Malone and Farnoosh Torabi. And
Right.
so they gave that as an incentive. I think maybe 90 people or 70 people ended up launching their podcast by September 1st. I was one of them. And the only reason I was able to do that was because Jacqueline, one of the podcast course hosts, gave us your name. And it was almost the September 1st deadline. And I was really struggling with the podcast cover art, the music. I had no idea how I was going to upload everything. I was
Right.
really
I
struggling.
remember.
Yeah. And Farnoosh said something like, when you can't figure it out, you need to hire someone. Instead of beating yourself up for not knowing how to do something or trying to figure it out, to hire someone to do
Yes.
it. And I knew that, but for some reason, I just wasn't applying it at that point. And so Jacqueline provided your name. She said, my editor is looking for more clients, and she gave everyone your information. And hiring you and your team has been one of the best decisions ever. And the only reason I've been able to continue this podcast is because of you and your team. And for everyone listening, and her team are amazing. They're in the Philippines and they turn things around overnight while we're sleeping, while I'm sleeping. They're working through things. They do the podcast, this podcast, the editing. They do the social media, they do the video, they upload to YouTube. If you don't know, I have a YouTube channel where I have all of the interviews uploaded and you can see the video along with obviously the audio. And you've provided professional virtual services. So I can't imagine running my business without Anne and the team. So I am so excited to have you on and to get to share your story. So remind me, how many, just on the podcast side, how many podcasts are you managing currently, you and the team?
Currently, okay. At a given time, depending on the season, we have managed close to 30 clients. So right now, we are managing about, I guess, a little under 20 shows and then additional social media clients. So that's give and take between 25 to 30 clients overall.
Yes, that's amazing. So Anne has built this, and now she has a website, but Anne has built, her and her team have built their business purely off of word of mouth. And I think it's just so amazing. And it says so much about the quality of your work and how professional you are and the product. And so I think that's so inspiring and that you're doing it. You're not in the United States, and yet you're managing all of these very successful podcasts in the US. I don't want to change. There's never been a thought, oh, let me find another podcast editing team. No way. So, can you share a little bit about how you got started with your business?
You know, Lupe, I always try my best not to be emotional during interviews because our clients, such as yourself, they really are super appreciative of what we're able to do for them. So, as I was also walking down memory lane when you were recalling your experience of how you started or how you launched your show, I can't help but also give their flowers or give recognition to the three people who really helped me establish this. And of course, I'm grateful that they are still with us now. First and foremost is Carl, and then also Ron and Vince. Because as you recall, Carl actually did your cover art, your graphics. Ron edited your episode, and Vince did your sonic branding, which is the music for your show. So it was the beautiful work of not just one person, but four people who really, of course, with you being so collaborative, but that launch was a product of the hard work of four people. And that podcast mastermind really helped launch our business because we got 8 clients off of that, most of which we are still working with today. But those 8 clients really helped establish our business because they also kept referring us to people, to their colleagues, to their friends. And it's such, as you said, it's a testament to how great this team is, has been, and continues to be because you're correct. Though we have a website, we don't really market that website at all. It's just a website where we can land people so they can see our work, but it's not something that we're actively marketing. So you're right. We have grown this business purely word of mouth. And I would really say that it's been such a wonderful experience because we've seen every client journey. We have clients who we started with at the very beginning. So we've really seen how their show and eventually their business blossom. We work with clients who they got fed up with their previous podcast production crew and we were referred to them and they always tell us how enjoyable the experience has been since we came along. I just am beyond grateful for this opportunity that landed in our laps and I'm grateful that we have grown a team that was able to nurture that opportunity because lots of people get opportunities, but what do you do with that opportunity that is handed to you? So I think that's where I would say I don't want to be modest about success because if I dumb down the success that we have experienced, then I am doing my team a disservice because they deserve all the recognition.
Mm. Mm. Well, I think you
Yeah.
getting emotional just shows how genuine you are. So I hope you don't decide to cut it out.
Okay. You're the boss. Lupe is the boss. So we will, even though
Eh,
my team and my friends were going to laugh at me because
mm,
I always cry. We have a friend who's a therapist and she said that, and you can confirm, of course, because this is your field of expertise. But my mom and I, we have very shallow tears. And a friend of mine said, the therapist said that it's a sign of, I guess, innocence that you are always quick to share your emotions because you see the world plainly as it is. So I don't know if that's
yeah,
true.
yeah. Well, I think it says shows how genuine you are and how much you deeply care. And as you were saying, I don't want to be modest because that would be a disservice to the team. I was like, yes, go, Anne.
Yeah. And because
Because
before I'm very shy about talking and marketing us or just talking to people about us. I'm very careful. I don't know why it's
yeah,
a
and I think
personality trait. You know me, right? We've worked
yeah.
together.
A couple of things that I wanted to highlight, Anne, is so when I started working with you, it was 2020. So September 1st of 2020 when I launched my podcast.
Right on time.
Yeah. And you told me that through the work that was referred to you, you were able to hire a team that didn't have work during the pandemic. So you were
Yes.
able to provide jobs in the Philippines that weren't available during this very rough time. And I find that so inspiring. I guess I'd love for you to share, how did you even get to the point where you were owning your own business? Did you always know you wanted to own a business? How did you get to be referred during that podcast mastermind? How did you start working with Jacqueline, who was the one that referred you? How did you get to that point where you were ready to take that opportunity? You said a lot of people get opportunities, but not everyone is able to take advantage of those opportunities and to do good work. So, do you mind sharing your story?
Actually, Carl and I, during the course of our almost 15 years of marriage, we've been called by friends and family as serial entrepreneurs because we engage in different kinds of businesses from time to time. So mostly small businesses, but like at one or two points in our lives, we have a food business. We even went into, I don't know, like importing stuff from abroad and then selling it here. So we are very adventurous when it comes to
Mm,
being entrepreneurs. And I recall even when I was still single, I was studying at the university and I do my side hustles. Like I purchase or I
mm.
buy clothes and then I resell them to my richer classmates who I hope get to watch this episode. But there has always been that desire inside me to do something beyond what I'm currently doing. And
Mm.
I'm lucky enough to find a partner is also the same who has that entrepreneurial, I would say adventurous mindset. But yes, that was definitely tough because prior to the Pace the Podcast Mastermind, I've been a VA for 3 years. And I would say
Mm.
that I was enjoying working with 3 to 4 clients, even sometimes 6 clients at time. And I was
And did
doing
you do
different.
that right after college?
No, actually, I worked first at two different banks, though I
Okay.
didn't finish banking and finance growing up. I was an advertising graduate. That's why this is actually coming as full circle to me now, Lupe. Like when we finally incorporated our business, we're still in the process of incorporating. I told Carl, this is my dream because I always wanted to work at an ad agency, but somehow I never tried to work at an ad agency.
Hmm.
But now we're here. It's really a full circle moment. But yeah, so going back, I was a VA, a lone VA. Well, me and Car were doing VA work. But when the pandemic hit, of course, people had to do some restraints in their businesses. So we weren't really seeing a lot of business come in.
Hmm.
And again, as I said, Jacqueline Malone, we're very thankful for her for that Based Podcast Mastermind. After which I reached out to, because it's becoming bigger than what we can handle between the four of us. I began reaching out to friends who most of them were actually students. It was not just people who were out of work at that time, but even students who lost their scholarship because of the pandemic, because the universities changed their regulation
Hmm.
and they still qualified for the scholarship academically, but financially, the schools just had to do some cost cutting or whatnot. Their work with us was also material for them to continue their education. So that
Hmm.
really added another layer of just fulfillment, that we're not just doing this for the money, or we're not just doing this because we need to do something with our lives, but we're actually producing business that would be helpful for other people to better their lives. So that
Hmm.
was really important for all of us inside the team.
Hmm. And so the question that's coming up for me, so you were doing VA work. How are you finding your clients? So how did you meet Jacqueline, who then brought you on to the podcast course? So were you on the website and that's how Jacqueline found you? Or how are you finding your
Okay.
clients? Because you're in the Philippines. I'm sure people, because when I've told people, oh, my team's in the Philippines, they look at me confused, like, how did you meet? How did you find each other? So,
Yeah, I always like telling this story. So I've been between jobs. I guess around 2018, I just try out websites that were outsourcing odd jobs, like one-offs. There was this one opportunity where I was able to transcribe. My God, guys, the AI transcription wasn't even around back then. Oh my God, that's how old I am, Lupe. Anyway, so a file was given to me to transcribe, and it was actually Jacqueline's old show with her partner then, Jessica Stansbury. So they have this podcast. I'm just forgetting the name now, but they have this podcast where I had to manually transcribe their show, like pause and play and type. Can you
wow.
imagine, right? Yes. And then it was just a one-off project, but then I really, something about Jacqueline's voice really resonated with me. Like I loved her as a person, even though I haven't met her at all. So there was this one time that I was attending a wedding, and I just thought about, what if I reach out to this person? Hopefully she needs somebody in her business to, I don't know, like type or just send out emails, something very vague or random that she might need my assistance for. So I just messaged her on Facebook. That was how random it was. It wasn't even a huge thing. And she was so sweet enough to reply, because she was at that point in her life that she was also going to launch Go To Gal. So
Hmm.
imagine the timing of it all. I was
And Go
able
To Gal
to,
is Jacqueline's podcast.
yes, yes. So the timing is that I was actually able to join her in her podcast during the early days when she was just starting. But my role then was only to transcribe her show, to
Hmm.
provide the transcript for SEO purposes and whatnot. And then she eventually, we got talking, and then she eventually reached out. Hey, would you like to produce my podcast? My podcast editor is going to be taking a full time job. Are you open to it? I had no experience at all.
Hmm.
No experience, zero. So she was kind enough to give me a virtual course on podcasting. And I spent 3 days really just watching, trying it out, actualizing everything that I experienced, and the rest is history.
Wow.
Yes.
So there's a lot there I want to dig into. One is what you said earlier, that you said you've had these side hustles. You were always kind of looking for ways to, like, you had this entrepreneurial spirit. So you find this transcribing job, which is amazing, right? To think that now it gets done automatically, but you were doing that transcribing, and how you took a chance. So you hadn't actually had a conversation with Jacqueline. You had just heard her voice in the transcriptions. So you
Yes.
said, "Oh, I like Jacqueline." You were bold enough to
Mm.
message her, right? And I think a lot of people wouldn't have done that, right? So you had to have some courage there to be vulnerable and say, "Oh, but she may not even respond." And she did. And then you were doing such a good job that when the opportunity came up, she offered you that. And then she even gave you a course to train you, and you said you absorbed it all. So Anne has also updated my website, and I use something called Show It, which is a
Yeah.
totally different platform from what she had used before. And she took the time to learn all of it so that she could manage my website. She learned how to manage all of it. So there's like this pattern here of you being willing to learn. You didn't say, "Oh, I don't know how to do Show It. I'm not going to do Show It." Or you didn't tell
Mm.
Jacqueline, "Yeah, I don't do podcasts. So I'm just maybe later." Like you said yes, and you figured it out.
Yes. That is also what Carl Vensron and I always tell our team. It's not fake it till you make it. It's totally different, but it's more of the two things, boldness and willingness to learn. And that's actually how we grew. We never say no to a challenge. We never back down. When we
Mm,
are presented with something new, we are transparent always to our clients to say, this is not our expertise yet, but if you can give us a couple of days or weeks, if you're willing to grow with us, we'll make sure that we learn this and then we'll help you manage it. We'll make sure that we will make the most out of it. So I remember when I was VA, just me back then, I didn't even know what a landing page was. There was a client who told me, "Do you know how to do a landing page?" And I had just that blank look in my face. But now we're doing landing pages left and right. We've completed more than 12 websites for different kinds of clients, and we continue to get those kinds of projects. But back then, I don't even know what that is. You're correct. Just that boldness and the willingness to learn. If you couple those two together, it's a recipe, it's a formula for success. And we're very grateful that we have a team who is embodying those two character traits or those two qualities very
mm,
well.
mm. And just curious, how big is your team now, Anne?
We have 10 people in the team who are working with us full time. And then we also have, I guess, 5 to 10 more who are freelancing for us. It's a team of 15 to 20 people who are managing all these 30 clients across.
That's amazing, Anne. I just find that so amazing. And so going back to that point of you hiring people, hiring students that were out of their scholarship, that you kept them from having to drop out of their university program. Yes, you were doing well, you were getting clients, and you found purpose in your work by providing work to other people. So the more you hustled, the more work you were providing for your team, which I think is really powerful. And I can imagine that that must have changed their lives.
Yes, especially we have team members who joined us when they were also at a difficult time in their lives. Difficult in the sense that they were also experiencing changes, like they were about to get married and they needed something stable, but something that they can do at home. We
Mm,
have people who there were just personal shifts in their lives, and working remotely was the perfect setup for them, and at the same time they are able to use their skills
mm,
because content creation, digital marketing is their interest. So it's like getting a lot of the things in their wish list for not just building a career but actually doing something that is fulfilling for them.
mm. Yeah, yeah. And the quality of the work that they're producing, that your team is producing, like when things are changing, Instagram changed their reels, your team adapted and created new format for my videos for social media. And then it changed again, and then they created a new format. So they're staying on top of the trends. They're producing quality work. I just think that's really inspiring that you're able to create a company that provides work that allows people to do something they enjoy while you get to do something you enjoy. I guess what I really want to highlight is sending that one Facebook message, being brave enough to send that one Facebook message can have this powerful domino effect where now you have 15 to 20 people working for you on a team, serving 30 clients across the world. I mean, we're recording this 7 p.m. my time, 8 a.m. your time. And so across the globe, I just think that's a really powerful, powerful story.
Building a team, building a business, it's not without challenges, of course. It's not without difficulties. Like, as you said, trying to stay on top of trends, it can really burn you out. It can really overwhelm you to the point that sometimes you need a firm hold on things because
Mm,
what are we even doing? Sometimes we have that crazy week where we're like trying to play catch up with just things that are happening, which is why it's very important for us internally that as much as we can, we try to maintain a happy and healthy and just productive and dynamic working environment internally, because all of us know that the industry can get very high tense, like stressful. It can get very demanding. We always tell them the things that we can control, which is our working relationship with one another, how we can support each other. There's no blaming each other. There's no pointing fingers. We try not to do that in our team. Instead, there's that mindset of how can I help when somebody is sick? How can I share the burden or the workload just so we can continue making things work?
mm,
We try to preserve that kind of culture just because the industry we're in, we know that it's really super demanding and really it can take a lot from us because we're service oriented. So we service different kinds of people. We're in an industry where today it's like this, the following day it's not. The chemistry is super important and just the love and respect for one another, not just as colleagues, but even on a personal level. We try to check on each other, how things are going. It's super important for us.
mm. Well, and as I think about you and how much you've grown, and not just your business, but you as a leader, what do you think have been some big lessons for you as you've grown over these last few years?
I'd say that the biggest lesson is the ability to just accept things as they are.
Mm.
Growing up, I've had that, I still continue to. I have that Monica quality in me where I really like to get things super in order. I try to make my day. I have a checklist daily of things that I want to get done. I'm super organized. I try to control things as much as I can. And I think to some extent that is important in our business. But in other areas of life, I have learned to accept that there are things in life that you really should embrace and appreciate, even if it doesn't come your way, it doesn't go your way.
Mm.
And I know that it has helped me become a better person and a better leader at that, a better business owner, because you are able to manage yourself, your emotions, your feelings. And that way you can also be better prepared to deal with people, both on the client side and also on the team, because they are my clients as well. They are my internal clients. So
Mm.
just that ability to accept is super important.
Mhm. So there's this piece of not kind of being upset or letting your emotions take over when things don't go your way.
Yes. Very true.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. And that's interesting because, yeah, what I know about you is how organized, how detailed, how the structure you provide. I think the first thing you gave me when I asked you about managing the podcast, you gave me a spreadsheet with the timeline. I said, this is what I want to launch. And you worked your way back and you said, okay, these are the deadlines you have, Lupe. You need to send me this by this date, this other thing by this other date. And that's exactly what I needed. I can imagine having that as your strength can also make it difficult to just accept things as they are.
Yeah. And clients like you make up 95% of our client base. Like we have clients who even just upon their first meeting with us, they're like, here's everything. I need that kind of authority in my life. In my business, I need that. And even that, the way my pillows are arranged, that doesn't happen just like that. I had to meticulously arrange my pillows to make it look like it's effortless. But yes, clients love that about us, but we also still insert a level of flexibility because we know that life happens. And 1 week can just feel like 2 or 3 days. So before we have a 1 week turnaround time, sometimes we give them a little more leeway just because we know that
Yeah.
life can get the better of you and you just forget or you just don't get things done. And the beauty of relationship is just the give and take and the communication.
Yeah, and that's what I appreciate about you and the team too is and I know it sounds like a big commercial for Anne, and it kind of is because I want everyone to hire her. But yeah, this flexibility, this level of professionalism, you turn things around really quickly and you are flexible and you're structured and you're flexible and you keep me accountable. I'm sure you do that for many clients where I get messages, "Hey, Lupe, is that recording ready?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I need to get that recording in." Or, "Hey, Lupe, you got that intro ready." And it works. It's my strength. I love connecting with people, and the technical side scares me. And so having a strong partner is very important.
We always tell our clients that don't worry about the legwork, don't worry about the technical stuff, just do the thing about the podcast process that you like the most.
Mm.
So most clients want the networking and the actual interview, but they want everything else to get done by a production team. So
That's where
you're
you
very on the money with how you feel.
So if someone's listening, and they're feeling unhappy with their work, or maybe they were happy and now they're not as happy and then wanting to make a change, what would you say to that person listening?
I instantly thought of two things. One is, and I know it's going to sound cliche, but I'm going to say it anyway because I am a living example of this, but it's never too late
Mm,
to start and make a pivot. I started to become a VA at age 34, which
mm,
is, I would say, especially now in our generation or in our world, people might consider it late because at 34, you're supposed to be building your career, you're
mm,
supposed to be gaining more momentum or more ground in your career. But it was a time in my life that I made a shift, both because of health reasons and also just change in priorities. I left my corporate job at that time at one of the biggest banks here in the Philippines. So you can just imagine what I had to say goodbye to. And it wasn't an easy decision. I loved working for that company. And it's not without its struggles as well. Like the early stages, I had to cry myself to sleep because I didn't know a thing about ghostwriting. What is drop shipping? These are new things that are being thrown my way by clients. What is a landing page? I don't even know. So one is not being afraid to start, even if you're in your late 30s, early 40s. The beauty of digital content or just online businesses in general is it has, I guess, neutralized or it has given the opportunity to
mm,
everyone who wants to try something, who wants to build something. You want
mm,
to build yourself, you want to connect to people across the globe, you want to sell something. Like it's been democratized and you are just given that platform that
mm,
wasn't available to people of 10 years ago. So
mm,
that's one, the willingness to start. And then the second one is, of course, a complementary to that, which is the willingness to learn. I
mm,
mean, even if not in this industry, but whatever it is in your life, if you're not willing to learn, then it's going to be difficult for you to make a change or to start with something or even think of a plan in mind because learning is a lifelong experience. Even me and the team, every day we always learn something new. If you're experiencing that situation in your life where you're unhappy about something or you want a change and maybe it is your inner self or your spirit telling you that,
mm,
explore that, listen to that.
mm. And thank you so much for being here today. Where can people learn more about you and your business? How can people work with you? Tell us all the things.
All right. I can't say our website without shouting out my team first, if that's all right. So I did mention Ron, Carl, and Vince earlier, but I want to thank Casey and Luigi, who's going to be producing this. Casey is the talented lady who keeps on asking Lupe about her episode. She's very diligent.
Thank you.
So yeah, so Casey and Luigi, and of course, Maine and Raiden and Richard and Clary, these are our team members. And of course, all the other members of Team Declutter. I'm always grateful for you guys, for G, for everyone else. And our website is teamdeclutter.com. That's teamdklutr.com. And we'll link it in your show notes.
Thank you so much, Anne. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Lupe.